Hello, everyone, and a very good morning to all of you. We are here for our second class for the intermediate course, discussing goods and services tax, the indirect tax portion of paper 4B. Friends, in our last discussion, in our first class, we had discussed in detail basic concepts of GST, the constitutional provisions around GST. Because prior to implementation of GST, central government and state government were separately levying indirect taxes. So central government was levying central excise, service tax, and on the other hand, state government was levying VAT. Then there was central sales tax, which was levied by the central government, but collected by the state government. So how did the government used to do it? The government used to do it basis the constitutional powers given to them. And the constitutional powers separately empowered the central government and separately empowered the state government to separately undertake the taxing exercise. Now, because GST was to be implemented, and as we all discussed that GST was implemented under a dual model, wherein both central government and state government are having the concurrent powers to levy tax. So accordingly, reformulation or requisite amendments were also required in the Constitution itself. And that is why a constitutional amendment bill was proposed. And in fact, just to make you aware, to amend the constitution, the bill first, it has to be passed by the lower house, that is Parliament, Lok Sabha, then the upper house, Rajya Sabha, then it has to be cleared by more than 50% of state legislatures. And thereafter, the bill goes to the president for his final approval. And after this long marathon process is how a constitutional amendment comes into effect. So this entire process was done just to implement GST in India. Constitutional Amendment Act, which is known as the 101st Constitutional Amendment Act, came into effect, which basically brought in articles, brought in requisite powers for the central government and the state government to concurrently levy GST as a tax in India. Thereafter, we discussed that while GST is a tax, but primarily it is a law. And for any law to become applicable, there has to be a triggering event, or as we like to call it in taxation, there has to be a taxable event. Now, how this trigger point is evident across various laws, various statutes. In Indian Penal Code, there is a section 420, and section 420 gets triggered only when one person has committed fraud with another. Similarly, our Indian Penal Code prescribes capital punishment, that is to be hanged till death. When is that invocable? That is invocable in case of the most heinous crimes being committed. Murders, and murders also, the category of murder being one of the most heinous crimes. So basically, the thing that I'm trying to emphasize upon is that there has to be a triggering event on the occurrence of which that particular law will become applicable, the particular sections of the law will become applicable. Under GST, that triggering event is supply. Now, prior to GST, when there was central excise, the taxable event was manufacturing. Under service tax, it was supply of service from one person to another. Under VAT or sales tax, it was sale. Under central sales tax, it was occasioning movement of goods from one state to another, and so on and so forth. Like octroi entry tax, it was entry of goods into a particular area, demarcated area. So basically, every statute had its own kind of different taxable event. And basis that, taxes were made applicable. Now, it is very basic to understand that when GST was being implemented, it could not be the outlook of the government that we lose out on any portion of the revenue. Rather, the emphasis of the government was to capture as much more avenues as they can to leverage and to enhance their revenue. And we see the debate around that also. So these days, it is very usual that you see that very big news is around what is the monthly collection of GST, states not being happy with their share of GST, and the government saying the GST revenues are not meeting the expectations, they're not rising as they're supposed to rise. So the basic idea being that they wanted to create such a big bracket of supply that within that, they could cover as many aspects as possible for giving a holistic coverage to all the events which existed prior to implementation of GST. Now, I'm just giving you a historical backdrop, okay? This is just for your understanding. And as a corollary, and to emphasize, what you can also notice is that supply includes sale, transfer, barter, exchange, disposal, license, lease. All these kinds of transactions have been holistically included within the domain of supply. Primarily, a supply should have four components. One is it has to be either goods or services or both. If for any reason it is neither goods nor services, that is covered under Schedule 3, it will not be treated as supply. Then there has to be a consideration. But there are certain exceptions captured in Schedule 1, wherein even if there is no consideration, still the transaction will be treated as supply. Then the transaction should be in the course or furtherance of business. Now, import of service for a consideration is an exception to a transaction being in the course or furtherance of business. And lastly, supply has to be made by a person. And we've also read that supply would include supply by an unincorporated association or association of persons or body of individuals to its members. So even that transaction has been specifically covered under Schedule 2 of GST. And Schedule 2 of GST, what role does it play? Schedule 2 of GST prescribes what transaction will be treated as supply of goods and what transactions will be treated as supply of services. Now, we had also discussed why is there a requirement of distinguishing between what is supply of goods and supply of services? The requirement of distinguishing between what is supply of goods and what is supply of services is because there are multiple tax rates under GST. And if it is a supply of goods, a different rate of tax could be applicable. If it is a supply of service, a different rate of tax could be applicable. Then there are concepts such as time of supply. That is, at what time tax is required to be deposited on a supply. These are separate for goods and separate for services. Then there is place of supply. That is, GST is a destination-based tax. And how do we determine the destination of any supply? The destination of any supply is determined basis place of supply. Now, this place of supply is not part, what I understand is, it is not presently a part of your course. It is most likely part of the final course. I may be wrong. I'm just on chapter 2 right now. So this place of supply is separate for goods and separate for services. So this is why actually this also has history in pre-GST. In pre-GST, there were certain, so first of all, let us understand that goods were separately taxable. That is under central excise and VAT or sales tax. And services were separately taxable under services tax. Now, there were certain transactions wherein department was contesting that it is liable to tax as goods, and at the same time, the service tax department was also contesting that a transaction is liable to tax as service tax. And practically, there were instances that a single transaction was being taxed as both sale or supply of goods as well as supply of services. So that was the extent of distortion. So to put to rest those kind of issues to the extent possible, government has since inception categorized a number of supplies to be either treated as supply of goods or to be treated as supply of services. So this is what a brief summary of what all we have discussed as part of our class 1. Now in our class 2 today, we are going to progress on our discussion and we are going to discuss composite supply. We are going to discuss mixed supply. We are going to discuss actionable claim. We are going to discuss certain specific amendments which are not recent amendments. Recent amendments meaning not coming within the period of last 6 months, but amendments which were introduced post implementation of GST. Okay, so somewhere between 17, 18, 19 and 20. And lastly, someone had asked me a question yesterday that are your PPTs sufficient or do we still need to look at the study material? And I had categorically told that you need to make the study material your basic point of reference, and keeping our commitment in alignment with that, once we complete our PPT related, so please don't be concerned about that. All these additional slides will be shared and uploaded and will be available with you for your future reference. So now, let us please try and understand the term composite composite supply. Okay, before I move to composite supply, I would just want to see that if any one of you has a query from our last class. If any one of you has put up a query, okay. So Vasant, in your example, there is no profit for Delhi government, okay? But it's not for profit, it's for logic. Okay, if you reverse or if you vice versa your example, you would see that when Delhi is the consumption state, the entire revenue proceeds will then go to the Delhi government. Charu, actionable claim, I have not explained at all. There is no, you are asking me to explain it again, but I am telling you I have not explained it at all. We will be discussing this today in detail. Abhishek is asking if we are differentiating between goods and supply. Okay, it should not be goods and supply, it would be goods and service. How will we categorize few items like computer software, which can be service or goods? Abhishek, first of all, this is slightly an advanced question for intermediate. And secondly, computer software, as you highlight, I think there is enough jurisprudence on this aspect, wherein the courts have ruled that if it is a pre-packaged software, something which can be bought off the shelf, like MS Office, Norton antivirus, these are to be treated as goods, and a software which is customized is to be treated as supply of services. Not even that, ignore this. For software, specifically a list of software related items have been covered under supply of services. Please go back and refer the study material. Yes, Shamim ji, it covers amendments for November 21. So Shivani is asking regarding transfer of credit in case of interstate transaction. Now, may I request you, Shivani, to hold this query till we reach on to the ITC chapter. Then we can take this up. PPT would not be visible to you because I am, okay, so now you can see me and not the PPT. Del Trader Agent, Disha, we will cover Del Trader Agent today, don't worry, okay? Definition of business also we will cover today, okay? So circling back to our discussion, now the PPT would be visible, right? So now let us first understand what is composite supply. So composite supply, please be very, very attentive, very, very careful, because this is an important concept. And this is something which will always require the application of mind, no matter how much rhetorically you've learned it. So composite supply has been defined to mean a supply made by a taxable person to a recipient consisting of two or more taxable supplies of goods or services or both, or any combination thereof, or any combination of thereof. So first thing that should come to your mind when we talk about composite supply, or when you're about to analyze whether any particular supply is a composite supply or not, is that there should be a combination of supplies. That is, within a single transaction, multiple goods goods or services or multiple services should be getting supplied. Because if it is a single supply, of course, it will be liable to tax as per its own nature, like this pen being supplied. But pen being supplied with a diary, pen being supplied with the subscription for Netflix, pen being supplied along with a car. So these are kind of supplies which have more than one supply in a single transaction. That is number one. Next, the definition says, which are naturally bundled. Now, what does this naturally bundled mean? This naturally bundled, does this mean that the nature comes out and bundles? Nature says, okay, today I will bundle Rolls-Royce car and a water bottle. Now, both of these will be sold together. Mother Nature comes down? No. Naturally bundled means here naturally is reference to man-made only, but naturally meaning that it happens ordinarily. What do I mean by that? All of you must have gone to a marriage in your family. Now, when do you go to a marriage function? First of all, these days there is a fancy venue. Then there is compulsory DJ, unnecessarily playing high volume songs, people unable to speak and hear each other. Some small children dancing on the dance floor. Lovely food being served. Not lovely in all weddings. In certain weddings, it doesn't taste good. Then there is decoration. Then there is lighting. Then there is security guard so that the groom doesn't run away. So when you're going to this function, you see that there is food, there is decoration, there is security, there is lighting, there is power backup. Wouldn't look nice to have a wedding function and the light goes out. So all of this is happening. And some of you who would have had a marriage of their immediate sibling would know that this entire function entire set of supplies can be booked by a simple per plate charge. That is, the hotel or this banquet says, sir, please come, give us a minimum guarantee that these many guests will come to your function. It could be 200, 500. Basis that we will fix a per plate charge. That is, per plate, if it is a 5-star, the plate could cost 5,000. If it's a chartered accountant's wedding, the plate could cost 5,000. If it is a graduate's wedding, the plate could cost 1,000 or 2,000. If the graduate is a businessman's son, the plate could also go up to 10,000. Now, in that per plate charge, he's giving you food, he's giving you decoration, he's giving you security, he's giving you power backup, he's giving you lighting, he's giving you DJ, he is even giving you 2 varmalas. So, now is this naturally bundled? Only a wedding in its normal sense is somewhere nature's call. But otherwise, this is naturally bundled because that is how it is now happening. That is how these transactions are occurring. So across the country, you can go out and you can book a function simply by agreeing to a per plate charge and giving a minimum guarantee to the hotel or to the banquet. Now, another example. A gentleman is selling this water bottle, and he says that if someone buys this water bottle, he will get a Rolls-Royce car along with it for free. I would like it to happen. In fact, prior to I had bought this bottle. But that can only happen in dreams, right? Wouldn't happen practically. Now, a question would come to your mind that what kind of an absurd example is this? In what sense can it be possible that a water bottle and a Rolls-Royce car is coming along with the water bottle? Let me tell you, please hold your horses. Not so absurd. There is a con man and he knows that on purchase of Rolls-Royce in India, there is more than 100% custom duty. So the landed cost of Rolls-Royce in India is around 6 to 7 crores. But the landed cost of same Rolls-Royce in US or in Canada is only 2.5 crores in Indian currency. Half. So why is the Rolls-Royce, the same model of Rolls-Royce, costing double in India? Because of such high taxes. Now what this man says is, okay, he reads composite supply. He says 2 or more taxable supply of goods. And he decides that, okay, I will bundle these supplies. And this bottle is only liable to tax at the rate of 12%. I'll charge 5 crore rupees. I charge tax at the rate of 12%. That this bottle I'm giving you for 5 crore rupees. Will the government allow this? Never. Never. And that is why the entire genesis of a transaction being composite supply is to understand that whether this combination of supplies is naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business or not. Because if it is not, then this bundling will get covered under mixed supply. And mixed supply we are going to discuss once we complete our discussion on composite supply. So once it is established that a combination of supplies are naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business, how will that combination be taxed? The combination will be taxed as per its principal supply. As per its principal supply. Meaning thereby, I buy this pen and a refill came along with this pen. Pen is taxable, hypothetically, let us presume, at 5%. Refill is hypothetically taxable at 12%. But pen along with refill is natural. It will come with a refill. It is happening in the ordinary course of business. This pen individually costs 1,000 rupees. Refill individually costs 200 rupees. But I am buying it as a combination for, say, suppose 1,100 rupees. On entire 1,100, the tax at the rate which is applicable on the pen, that is at the rate of 5% will be applicable. At the rate of 5% will be applicable. So, and in accordance with the principal supply, we will determine the time of supply, the place of supply, the classification, everything will be determined basis this principal supply. Okay. Now, what is a principal supply? Principal supply means the supply of goods or services which constitutes the predominant element of a composite supply and to which any other supply forming part of the composite supply is ancillary. So these days, friends, it is very common that in our usual course, we are buying combination of supplies, but we never give a thought to it. I'll give you some examples. This remote, it comes with batteries. Batteries are separately saleable. Remote is separately saleable. Pen comes with a refill. Refill is separately saleable, but then it's a composite supply. Calculator, it comes with batteries. Batteries are separately saleable, but it's a combination of supply. It's a composite supply because calculator, batteries being supplied with calculator are being done in ordinary course of business. Mobile, charger comes along with it. Charger is separately saleable. It's an independent entity, independent commodity. But then we all know that mobiles come with a charger. Of course, now iPhone is an exception. But still you can see this is not iPhone. So generally mobile phones come with chargers, and therein mobile phone is the principal supply. Then we have a laptop. A charger comes along with laptop. Charger independently can also be bought, but in that case, charger is a part of that composite supply, wherein laptop is the principal supply. So, and then you buy a television, you buy a laptop, you buy a mobile, you get a warranty that if there is any malfunctioning, now there is a default warranty of a period like 1 year, that if anything goes wrong within that 1 year, we will correct it for you, right? Then there is an extended warranty, which is separately saleable. Extended warranty, separately taxable, separately tax charged. But normal period warranty with any electronic is included in the price of the commodity and taxable at the price of that commodity. When you buy a television, by default, you get a warranty for 1 year. Have you ever seen that separately that amount is being billed, separately any tax is being charged? All that you know is you've bought a television, it comes with a 1 year warranty, the TV is for 50,000 rupees and it includes tax component, that's it. So these are certain examples of composite supply, and this will also help you understand that in television, the warranty is ancillary, but the predominant element is television. In laptop, predominant element is laptop, the charger, the warranty is ancillary. In the case of pen, the pen is the predominant element. The refill is ancillary. In case of calculator, in case of remote, the calculator is principal, the remote is principal, but the batteries are ancillary. Now, taxability, as I already told you, a composite supply comprising of 2 or more supplies, one of which is a principal supply, shall be treated as supply of such principal supply. So some more examples, like when you book a transportation of goods, and generally in case of businesses, when goods are to be transported, say suppose from Delhi to Bangalore, A is selling goods to B from Delhi to Bangalore, and while the goods will be moving on road, not only transportation services availed, but packing material that you safely pack the goods, insurance that if there is any breakage, loss, theft on the way, then I should be compensated. So basically all of this is given. The GTA says, okay, transporter says, okay, you pay me this much amount, I will insure the insurance, I will ensure that the pack material is placed proper, and I will undertake transportation and delivery. So this entire combination is again an example of a composite supply. And warranty and maintenance contract with purchase of a TV is again this we've discussed at length. Now friends, while I've given you several practical examples of a composite supply, still there could be a question, there could be a scenario which doesn't get covered within those examples. And you are left to determine whether or not a particular set of combination supplies is getting covered under composite supply. To determine what are the other indicators which can be used, the other indicators which can be used are the perception of the consumer and the service receiver or the service receiver. That is, what is their perception? Whether they are buying it as in the nature of a composite or they're artificially getting it clubbed. Secondly, majority of service providers in a particular area of business provide similar bundle of service. That is, that all of them provide similar bundle of service. That is, it should not be that only and only one person is doing it. Then how come can it be said to be naturally bundled? How can it be said to be in the ordinary course of business? For it to be naturally bundled and for it to be happen in the ordinary course of business, majority of service providers in a particular area should be undertaking the same kind of transaction. Then, nature of the various services in a bundle of service. Example, laundry with hotel room, or these days what you can say is a better example would be breakfast buffet with hotel room. It is a given these days that when you book any hotel, the buffet is mostly included along with your stay, breakfast buffet. So again, it is something which is starting to happen in the ordinary course of business. And this is something which is happening, which can be said to be naturally bundled. So these are the kind of indicators which can help you to determine. Other indicators are there should be a single price for the entire bundle being supplied. The bundle should normally be advertised as a package. Then different elements should not be available separately. And different elements should be integral to each other, wherein if one or more is removed, the nature of supply would be affected. So it is also important to note here that there is no straight jacket formula. It is completely basis analogy and application of practical mind that you will be able to determine whether a particular bundle of supply is a composite supply or not. Now I'll give you an example wherein a circular has been issued by the government. Now, some of you would already be driving cars, and most of you would be having cars in your home. Soon you will become chartered accountant and you'll have your own car. Now, when this car you will send for servicing, they'll change the engine oil, they'll refill the brake oil, they'll change the coolant, they'll do some checking, general checking, and they'll give you a bill which says that this much for engine oil, this much for brake oil, this much for coolant, this much is service charge. So first of all, more than one supplies. But in that case, usually what we see is engine oil, separate amount mentioned, separate tax charge is applicable on engine oil, billed. Brake oil, separately amount charged, separately taxed at the rate of brake oil, separately billed. Services, separately billed, separately tax charged at the rate of service, separately billed raised. Now a question arose whether this individual billing, individual invoicing, and individual tax application be acceptable to the department. And the government clarified servicing of cars involving supply of both goods and services, where the value of goods and services are shown separately, then goods or services would be liable to tax at the rates as applicable to such goods and services separately. So basically, the government has reinforced that that is absolutely fine as long as you're separately billing each item and separately taxing it. You're absolutely fine with it. No problem at all. So this is acceptable, but this wouldn't have been acceptable if for the entire supply, that is including engine oil, brake oil, services, a single amount was being charged. Then there would have been an issue whether it is composite supply or not. So because these were individually being billed, individually being made liable to tax, proper tax was being paid to the government. The government has clarified that no loss of revenue and hence it is acceptable to us in case of servicing of cars. Now the next concept is the concept of mixed supply. Friends, what I can broadly tell you is any combination of supplies which is not composite supply is going to be a mixed supply. I'll repeat myself. Any combination of supplies, it could be goods and goods, it could be goods and services, it can be services and services, which are not composite supply, but are being supplied for a single price, then such combination is going to be a mixed supply. A mixed supply. Now, what is the definition for the term mixed supply? Two or more individual supplies of goods or services or any combination thereof. Till here, the first line is same as it was there in composite supply. Then it says made in conjunction with each other. That is, they should be supplied in conjunction with each other by a taxable person for a single price. For a single price. For a single price. Please remember, if the prices are distributed separately, then I gave you an example of servicing of cars. No need to come to mixed cars. Separately billed, separately charged tax, done. No need to come to composite or mixed. But you come to mixed when there is a combination of supplies for a single supply and where such supply does not constitute a composite supply, does not constitute a composite supply. In such cases, is where this combination will be treated as a supply of that particular supply which attracts highest rate of tax. कुछ ध्यान आ रहा है आप लोगों को? इस बॉटल के साथ एक रोल्स रॉयस गाड़ी दी जा रही थी. इस बॉटल के साथ एक रोल्स रॉयस गाड़ी दी जा रही थी. रोल्स रॉयस car cost 7 crores. This bottle costs 1,000 rupees. Gentleman was trying to artificially create a bundle, trying to tax the entire transaction at 12%. Now, the correct taxation on this transaction will be 7 crores and 1,000 rupees, taxable at more than 100%. More than 100%. Okay. So, this is the kind of impact, and this is why the government has come up with the concept of mixed supply. Now, how to identify whether a combination of supplies is a mixed supply or not? First of all, you have to rule out that the supply is a composite supply. You have to rule out that the supply is a composite supply. So, आप ये देख लीजिए कि combination of supplies है, single price है, तो पहले देख लीजिए क्या composite supply का test satisfy हो रहा है क्या? That is naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. If that is not being satisfied, then of course it gets covered under mixed supply. Certain examples are, you go to a bakery or you go to a confectionery shop and you see this basket, okay? This basket which has one packet of juice, one packet of chocolate, one packet of cookies, one packet of Lay's, one packet of wafers in a basket and wrapped in a colored transparent sheet. So this is a prime example of mixed supply, because that juice is separately taxable, chocolate is separately taxable, this Lay's is separately taxable, and every bakery person is creating his own combinations, right? So someone is just putting a bunch of cake, someone is just putting a bunch of juices. So all of that can be said to be a kind of mixed supply. Secondly, purchase of refrigerator with storage water bottles. I think someone has had a real bad experience with purchasing refrigerator with water bottles. That is why they've put it as an example in our study material. But I think there are various better examples than this. Generally, also, if you see, refrigerator does not come along with water bottles. So that again is kind of a transaction which is not naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business, and hence merits classification as a mixed supply. तो अगर mixed supply बन गया तो क्या होगा? So when it becomes mixed supply, then the rate of tax will be as applicable on that is the highest rate of tax. So in our example, between Rolls-Royce and the water bottle, the tax rate of Rolls-Royce. Then time of supply, place of supply, also in accordance with the supply which is liable to highest rate of tax, that is as per applicable on the Rolls-Royce. Now, one last time, examples of composite supply and mixed supply. Just see the irony. This has been copy pasted from our institute's material, and the copy paste in case of mobile is an irony, because the mobile phone displayed is iPhone and the charger displayed is Nokia. First of all, that is highly wrong and demeaning to iPhone. Secondly, iPhone charger along with iPhone, one phone which has brought in the new norm that no longer they're giving chargers with phone. That phone is displayed here along with the charger. So I think this is also an amendment which should be captured in our study material, that iPhone no longer comes with a charger. So basically, phone with a charger, it's a composite supply because generally phones come with a charger. Now, bucket with a tile. So this, I'm sure, has come from some wonderful lady. That bucket with tile, it's a mixed supply because generally, often they're sold without any conjunction. But here they're showing it as bucket with tile. It is a mixed supply because this is not happening ordinarily. So like this is not, so mobile with a charger happens every time, right? That is why composite supply. But bucket with a dishwasher or with a washing powder, it's not happening always. It's happening seasonally. So that's a kind of a mixed supply. So we've concluded our discussion around composite supply and mixed supply. Now I will pause my discussion here and I would request your queries specifically around composite supply and mixed supply. And then we will move on to our rest of the discussion. Shivani, your query is not clear. Postpaid plan with Netflix subscription. So you please let me know again. Shivani is saying she had a thought of purchasing Rolls-Royce, but now it's vanished. Shivani, we have similar thoughts. Anushka is saying, sir, please explain naturally bundled in short, please, sir, once again, please. Now, I'm not sure how long ago you posted this query, because naturally bundled, I've already explained. I think, in fact, a couple of people, others are also asking what is, Sushil is also asking what is naturally bundled. So, I think the emphasis that you're placing on naturally bundled, if you shift that emphasis on the ordinary course of business. So basically, any bundling that is happening in the ordinary course of business. For example, mobile phone with a charger happens ordinarily. Calculator with batteries happens ordinarily. Laptop with a charger happens ordinarily. Bottle with a Rolls Royce, does it happen ordinarily? No, it does not. Laptop with a refrigerator, does it happen ordinarily? Does not. Car with a truck, does it happen ordinarily? Does not. So naturally, so the complete line is which is naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business. Now, just grasp this bundling which is happening in the ordinary course of business, okay? So then I think your question can be better answered. Charu, what do you want to ask specific? Can you be specific under works contract? Sahil is asking. No, Sahil, this distinction that you're drawing, I would request you not to get to this distinction, not correct, okay? Not sure why you got that, because the examples we may have referred is that is why, but please, that cannot be the test. Shivani, see, why are you saying half and half? Okay, so it will depend now on what's, so in case of servicing of car, I've already told you they're separately billing item wise. So item wise, it will be taxed. Where is the issue? Manish, if a combination of supply is separately billed, example, servicing of car, then individually there will be items will be taxed. No, there is no question of any composite or mixed supply. Mixed supply issue will only arise where a single price has been given to the entire bundle. Okay? And the bundling is not something which happens in ordinary course of business. Okay, Sanjay, if that makes you happy, please, I'll accept that. Taxable impact, Prashant, we've already discussed. Composite supply is taxable as per the principal supply, whereas mixed supply is taxable as per the item which is liable to highest rate of tax. Wonderful, Bhagyashri. Chakrapani, buy one, get one free. Buy one, get one free is not anything that you discuss in composite or mixed. Buy one, get one free is an issue for valuation, is an issue for ITC, okay? Buy one, get one free, it's actually one item only. Airtel's prepaid recharge also gives insurance facility. Is mixed supply? Yes. And I believe they separately charge you for this insurance facility. So nominally they charge you. If they are separately charging nominally, they will pay tax separately on both. If they are not charging, it is certainly a mixed supply. Toothbrush with toothpaste is composite supply. See, Charu, toothbrush with toothpaste, generally they are sold separately also. Limited instances where they are sold together. Okay. So, yes, it can be a composite supply, but then I think this statement alone is not sufficient. We will have to look at other factors also. Generally, what is happening in that particular market. So, a question when it will come in your exam, there will be some background to it also. Yeah, Shivani, if many service providers are doing, certainly it can be set in ordinary course. Rahul Kularia, the point that I'm trying to say is there is no straight test. Like there is a test now that you can check whether this milk that you drink, it is adulterated or not. Just mix some drops of that tincture, and if the color is purple, the milk is pure. If the color is black, the milk is impure. So similarly, there is no formula by which you can say, okay, this is composite and this is mixed. It is all fact-based and it is all learning-based. Yeah, Prajmohan, in composite supply, first of all, yes, it has to be more than one supply. Shivani, conjunction is a simple English word which means two things supplied together. Right. Charu, example of works contract is, first of all, in GST, works contract has been restricted. We'll come to works contract. Okay, we'll be doing certain examples around Schedule 2. And in that Schedule 2, since works contract is specifically covered, we'll take that up there. Okay. So I believe we've addressed all the queries around composite supply and mixed supply. So now we'll move on to the next part of our discussion, covering certain important aspects. First of that, another confusing aspect which can easily get you confused and which often comes up in examinations from various aspects as a tricky question is import of services. Now, generally, we all know that import of service is liable to tax in India under reverse charge. Now, some of you would ask, what is reverse charge? We'll come to reverse charge, don't worry. But simply let us understand that import of service is covered under supply and is liable to tax in India. Now, we all know that for any transaction to qualify as supply, it should be in the course or furtherance of business, but import of service is an exception, meaning thereby import of service with consideration in the course of furtherance of business, it is a supply. Import of service with consideration not in the course of furtherance of business, still it is a supply. And this we have all discussed earlier. Okay, I'm just giving you a comprehensive chart for you to be able to revise it and for you to be able to quickly refer it. Similarly, for any transaction to qualify as supply, there should be a consideration attached to it. However, for import of service, even if it is without consideration, in such case, if the import of service is happening from a related person, who is a related person is defined under GST, or it is happening from another establishment of the same taxpayer, that is Hyundai India doing transaction with Hyundai South Korea. So it's other establishment plus the transaction is in the course of furtherance of business. Even if without consideration, the transaction will be treated as supply. So what we know for import of service, even if there is no consideration, but it is happening from a related person, any other establishment in the course of furtherance of business, it is supply. Import of service for a consideration in the course of furtherance of business is supply. Import of service for a consideration not in the course of furtherance of business is also covered under supply. So this is an important aspect that all of you must remember, must learn, and be very, very, very careful when you attend to it as a part of your question paper, because it is really tricky and can get you confused and ultimately unnecessarily lead to wrong answers just because you are not attentive enough. Now, friends, on heavy demand, let us discuss the next concept, that is actionable claims. Actionable claims. Actionable claims, while they have been specifically defined under GST, but under actionable claims, the definition is slightly heavily worded, maybe a bit difficult to learn and recall. So what we can do around that, while the definition you can any day go back and refer from your study material, I think we can also understand it simply. In a nutshell, actionable claim is a claim to an unsecured debt. What is an unsecured debt? Unsecured debt is a debt which is not secured by any property, by any asset. And secondly, it could also be a beneficial interest in a movable property. In a movable property, not a immovable property. Now, what are the examples of actionable claim? Claim for arrears of rent. So there is a tenant in your property. He is liable to pay you rent, but he is not paid rent for certain months. So that's claim for arrears of rent is an actionable claim. Claim for money due under insurance policy. Suppose someone had taken an insurance for car, there is some nominal damage in the car, and for that damage he gets the repairs done. The bill is then raised to the insurance company. So that is also known as an actionable claim. Claim for return of earnest money. So certain connections require earnest money deposit. Like earlier mobile phone connections, there you needed to make certain earnest money deposit. So when the connection is disconnected and you claim the return of this earnest money deposit, that earnest money deposit return claim is also an actionable claim. Right to get back the purchase money when the sale is set aside. So you bought something from someone, now you've returned the sale is set aside, you want your purchase money back, that is also an actionable claim. Or right of a partner to sue for an account of the dissolved partnership firm. So there is a partnership firm, the firm is not dissolved, and the partner wants to sue for an account that, okay, but where is my share of the partnership? So that is also an actionable claim. So basically what we can understand is that there is a sum due to certain person. Could be rent, could be insurance claim, could be earnest money, could be partnership share, could be sale return amount. It is not secured क्योंकि रेंट आपका सिक्योर्ड तो है नहीं, दिया नहीं दिया उसने तो फिर आप केस करो. इंश्योरेंस में पैसा दिया नहीं दिया तो केस करो. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि आप कोई रेंट में उसका सामान घर का बेच दोगे, इंश्योरेंस में इंश्योरेंस कंपनी बेच दोगे. दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू हैपन. Or it could be a beneficial interest in a movable property, that okay, there is this movable property, I have a right to it and I want to give up that right or a beneficial interest. So that is an actionable claim. Okay. So these are the examples along with the definition for an actionable claim. I understand there would be certain queries around this actionable claim also. I would request you to place your queries on actionable claim. We'll take those queries on actionable claim. Once we conclude our queries, we'll take a break for 10 minutes and thereafter we will resume our class. Okay, so I'm moving to the query box. Any queries for the actionable claim? Yes, Abhishek. Spare tires with the car at the time of purchase, that is natural bundling. Bhagishri, what did you not get? Can you please be clear? Shivani, distinct person will not be applicable in case of import of service because distinct person is different GST registration of the same entity. So distinct person is actually applicable for two different registrations of the same entity within India. Okay. Whereas for import of service, the import has to happen from outside India. Bhagishri, sale with discount is an auctionable claim. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not clear what query you're asking. Namrata, which point, rather than saying 2 point, please repeat. Just can you please ask specifically which point? Bhagishri, what is the confusion for import of service? I've told you clearly, import of service for a consideration in the course of furtherance of business, covered under supply, liable to tax under GST. Import of service for a consideration not in the course of furtherance of business, covered under supply, liable to tax. Import of service without consideration from a related person or from a what do you say, a related entity, and in the course of furtherance of business, covered under supply, liable to tax. So these are three different: import of service without consideration, not from a related person, not in the course of furtherance of business, only then it is not covered under supply and not liable to tax. It is confusing. That is why we have discussed it so many times. That is why we have dedicated a particular slide to it. Go back, sit down, study with a calm mind, draw something around it, then it will become clear to you. Okay? Of course, it is confusing. That is why it is important. Dissolved partnership venal, the point here there is that once a partnership is dissolved, then on the dissolution, the assets of the firm, the reserves of the firm, if any, are to be distributed amongst the partners. Now, if a partner doesn't receive it actually, he certainly has the right in that. Suppose there were 3 partners. 2 partners distributed everything amongst them. The third partner does not get his share. Then the third partner can always raise a claim now that this is my share that you needed to give to me. So that claim is an actionable claim. Okay, he can take action upon that claim. Good, Rahul. First of all, Namrata, it is beneficial interest in a movable property and not immovable property. Okay, we need to be very, very careful. Beneficial interest in a movable property meaning that any movable property, any kind of current asset, which is in which a person has a beneficial interest meaning he has some sort of ownership in that. That can also be referred as an actionable claim. No, Shivam, your query is that actionable claims are enforceable only on movable property, but in case in land where the money is due and we recover it only by suit is considered an actionable claim or not. Of course, it is considered an actionable claim. I am not saying that only movable property is covered. I am saying beneficial interest in movable property. So this 1 and 2, my dear friend, 1 and 2 are separate. Okay, you need to understand. This could either be a claim to an unsecured debt, or it could be beneficial interest in a movable property. All right. So it could be either of that. It need not be that it has to comply both of them cumulatively. Okay. Earnest money is deposit, Shivani. Earnest money is deposit that you make. So you go to a hostel and you take up a room or you take up a flat on rent. You have to make certain deposit now that 1 month you have to deposit and the rest you have to pay in advance. That deposit is earnest money. The return of earnest money is you take a flat on rent, 1 month deposit, then the rent in advance. You vacate the flat. When you vacate the flat, you ask for refund of that deposit now. That is refund of earnest money. My dear friends, you are asked good queries. Kamal, of course, if that product is coming with a lifetime warranty by default, and it is happening on that product across in the ordinary course of business, then it is naturally bundled. However, if generally the product carries only 1 year warranty, but one brand just to augment its sales is going out of the way and giving lifetime warranty, then in that case, it may not be unnaturally bundled. Shivani, no sense of the query that you asked, that limit of 50,000 employer to employee is applicable for stock transfer. In what cases does the employer transfer stock to employee? And first of all, stock transfer is nowhere gift. Okay. Stock, even if transferred, it is properly, the person who is receiving the stock is taken up in books of accounts, a ledger is created, and he is made liable to pay for that. Okay. Okay, Shamim ji, we'll take MCQ during lecture. How is a right to sue invoiced? Right to sue is not invoiced, but right to sue is invoked. Invoked meaning that we enter into a contract. You do not honor your part of the contract. I have the right to sue you in the court, and I go to the court and file an application against you that you be held liable to pay the damages to me for non-fulfillment of the contractual conditions. Okay. So right to sue is invoked, not invoiced. Wonderful. Queries, wonderful degradation of queries since our last lecture. I had a very, very good impression. I'm dealing with very, very smart, intelligent students in our last class. सब आपने रिन से पकड़ के धो दिया. Okay, so no worries. We've completed our discussion around composite supply, mixed supply, and around actionable claims. We'll come back and take up MCQs. We'll come back and take up certain specific aspects of the chapter 2, which are not covered as of yet. Okay, so see you back exactly after 10 minutes. Thank you. Yeah. So, welcome back, everyone. So someone was asking regarding definition of business. So definition of business I've taken up, though not from any specific aspect, but I also recall that in one of our discussions, someone was saying that whether supply by government would be covered under or would be excluded from the purview of GST, and that's the kind of impression that we have. In the course of furtherance of business, only someone was saying that when government is doing work, it wouldn't be covered in the course of furtherance of business because that's government's job. So for that gentleman and for everyone in the audience, can you read this? Business includes any activity by government or local authority. Now, this government would include central government and state government both, and even local authority as public authorities, meaning thereby that the government doing anything in the capacity of public authority per se has been included in the definition of the term business. And so by default, all the functions of the government are also covered under GST. But in the exemptions chapter, there are certain exemptions which have been given for the functions entrusted to the government. So it is by virtue of those exemptions that this supplies by government or local authority do not effectively become liable to tax, but per se, they are very much covered under business. Not even this, of course, it includes any trade, commerce, manufacture, profession. It also includes supply, acquisition of goods, including capital goods and services. It also includes provision of facilities by club associations. It includes admission for consideration. It includes services as holder of office. It includes services by race club by way of a totalist star. So basically, what is this? This is race club organizers. They are known as totalizer or license to bookmaker in such club. And of course, it also includes government and local authority. So one thing that we can clearly observe is that a very, very wide definition has been given to the term government authority and local authority. So to the term business, that it goes on to even include government authority and local authority. Now, certain clarifications which came in GST, certain amendments which came in GST and are relevant to Chapter 2. Taxability of tenancy rights or pagadi under GST. Now, some of you would be aware of this pagadi system. Some of you would not be aware of the pagadi system. So, pagadi system was basically a type of tenancy arrangement wherein substantial value was charged upfront and then a nominal rent was charged from the tenant. So suppose there is a shop and the value of shop is 10 crore rupees, 9.9 or 9.5 crore rupees would be charged upfront and the balance would be charged in the nominal rent form during the period of tenancy. And to give an example of this, you all would have heard about Delhi and the famous market of Delhi, that is Connaught Place or Connaught Circus, now known as, or Rajiv Gandhi Circle. In Connaught Place, the biggest of the showrooms are covered under Pagadi system, and you would be surprised to know that the nominal rent that they are paying is as low as 1 rupees or 2 rupees or 10 rupees. Imagine. Because all these shops were taken on Pagadi near independence, maximum value was charged upfront. Now, then the value of 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 10 rupees was also significant. Of course, over time, it has gotten diluted. Now, the clarification issued was that in line with lease or right to use, the tenancy rights in Pagadi under GST will also be treated as supply of service and thus liable to GST. Then supplies to be treated as neither supply of goods. So basically Schedule 3, we just discussed the definition of business. The definition of business says it would include government or local authority when undertaking public function. But then I told you there are certain exceptions cast, certain exemptions given. And one of those exceptions is here, wherein an addition has been made to Schedule 3. It says services by way of any activity in relation to a function entrusted to a panchayat under Article 243G or to a municipality under Article 243W of the Constitution. So basically, municipality or panchayat undertaking functions which are entrusted to them under the Constitution. So basically, all the functions that they're required to undertake, all of that is now covered under Schedule 3. So basically, panchayat and municipality on their supply of these functions, activities, no GST will be applicable. Supply is to be treated neither as supply of goods nor services, another addition. And this is a wonderful addition. Let me give you a practical background. These lifts, which are movable lifts, which you would have seen that a person is standing in a basket, and that is lifted, and that person is doing something on the lamp post, doing something on the metro poles, doing something on high-rise building, cleaning, glass fixing. Can you recall? There is this special type of vehicle which has a basket kind of on its edge. A person can stand on it, and then it rises up to a certain limit, so the person can change the lamppost bulbs, lamppost tube lights. It can clean the high glass panes. So those are special kinds of vehicles. Plus, and generally, not many people purchase this vehicle. This is purchased by a limited set of entity, and then it is rented out all over India. Okay, anyone wants to use it, they place a request, book it for certain amount is charged, and the goods are sent to them. More important aspect, ITC from its manufacturing facility in Haryana is sending a truck full of biscuits from ITC Haryana to ITC Maharashtra. Now this truck is also purchased at Haryana location, booked at Haryana location. Now biscuits, when they move from ITC Haryana to ITC Mumbai, clearly it is stock transfer, goods from supplied between distinct person. Supply of biscuits between distinct persons, stock transfer liable to tax. Haryana has to pay tax. Maharashtra will avail credit. But what about the truck? But truck is also goods, movable goods. Truck is also moving from Haryana to Maharashtra. So that should also be considered a stock transfer. Tax should be made applicable. Why only this? Indigo aircraft, that 2,000 crore rupees aircraft is daily making 6 flights. Indigo has registration in Delhi, has registration in Mumbai, has registration in Bangalore. Plane takes off from Indigo Delhi, goes to Indigo Mumbai. Stock transfer. Indigo should pay tax on 2,000 crores. Just the moment they are about to pay tax, they get a notification, plane is again taken off and is now going to Bangalore. Again, they should pay the tax. Again, they get a notification, now the plane is going to Kolkata. So in a single day, 100 crores of worth rupees of tax would be paid by Indigo. So this was the kind of anomaly, illogical aspects which were coming out from the condition of supply between distinct persons. A clarification was issued. Addition was made to Schedule 3. It says, interstate movement of various modes of conveyance between distinct persons, including train, buses, trucks, trailers, tankers, vessels, containers, and even aircrafts carrying goods or passengers or both, or for repairs and maintenance. These will neither be treated as supply of goods nor services, except where such movement is for further supply of the same conveyance. That is, the same conveyance is now being sold. Then, of course, you have to pay the tax. But if it is just happening for carrying of goods, carrying of passengers, or for repair or maintenance, in such case, no tax would be applicable. Another addition to Schedule 3, that rigs, tools, and spares and all goods on wheels. Now, if you see here, it says specifically, it says it has to be trains, buses, trucks, tankers, trailers, vessels, containers, aircrafts. But what happens if it's a motorcycle? What happens if it's a cycle? What happens if it's a auto? What happens if it's a tricycle? What happens if it's a special train, special vehicle? So it said all goods on wheels. Okay, any goods which have wheels. So there are certain drinks which give you wings, and there are certain goods which are on wheels. So all goods which are on wheels, those have been said to be covered under this clarification. And not only this, rigs, tools, and spares. This rigs, tools, and spares, these are also covered under this exception, that their interstate movement would not be liable to tax by virtue of being excluded, that is neither supply of goods nor services. So these are the certain additional aspects that we have discussed. Now, I would also like to discuss certain other aspects in detail. That is, someone was asking, so what is this del credere agent? Someone was asking, so explain actionable claim again in detail. So I would now like to go back to the institute study material itself so that we can have a more holistic discussion. Okay. So let me share the screen with you from where I'm reading out. So this would be visible to all of you. I believe some of you are not still comfortable with actionable claim. So see, actionable claim has been defined to mean a claim to any debt other than a debt secured by mortgage of immovable property or by hypothecation or pledge of movable property. So basically, it has to be an unsecured debt or to any beneficial interest in movable property which is not in the possession, either actual or constructive, of the claimant. So basically, either it has to be an unsecured debt or a beneficial interest in a movable property like a car, like a laptop, like a phone. But that movable property should not be in the possession of the person claiming that right. So that is where it becomes an actionable claim. And then it says, which the civil courts recognize as affording grounds for relief, whether such debt or beneficial interest be existent, accruing, conditional, or contingent. So they are saying that such debt or beneficial interest could be existing, that it is already there, accruing, that is step by step it is accruing to you, conditional, it is subject to a condition that you fulfill certain condition and then this debt, right in debt or right in movable property will accrue to you, or contingent, that if this happens, this you'll be given this right. If this does not happen, this right will not be given to you. So it's a slightly technically worded definition. But what you can simply plainly, first what you need to understand is, it is a claim to an unsecured debt or a claim to a movable property, and the claim, and first, in case of movable property, the person should not be in possession of that movable property. And secondly, this right could be existing, accruing, conditional, or contingent. Okay. So in either of those cases, it would complete the meaning of actionable claim. Next, you were asking about del credere agent. So del credere agent, my dear friend, is usually an agent which is providing you guarantee for the payment, that okay, the payment will be received by you, don't worry about the payment. Okay, I'll go to the del credere agent part, and in the meanwhile, I'll see if there are any other aspect also I want to discuss with you. This supply we've already discussed. Inclusions and exclusions we've already discussed. Forms of supply we've already discussed. Concentration we've already discussed. Now, before we go to del credere agent, let us also take up certain examples. Donation received by charitable institution from individual donors without quid pro quo. What is it? Quid pro quo? Quid pro quo is doing something in exchange. When you go to buy a mobile phone, you make the payment by money or card. So the seller is getting money, you are getting the mobile phone, that is quid pro quo. You become a chartered accountant and your parents become very happy and a big hoarding is hosted in your name that my son or daughter has become a chartered accountant. So that is kind of a quid pro quo, that they are paying for the advertisement and they're getting it advertised. Okay. Businesses, when they're advertising about their product, they're getting advertisement benefit. But when donations are given to charitable institutions, the question was, when simply a donation is given to charitable institution, and you would have gone to various temples, dharamshalas, churches, mosques. You would have seen that there is a plate saying that, okay, is bhavan ka nirman, is isne karaya, this was donated by this person. A question arose whether that can be covered within consideration. And the law said that cannot be considered as consideration because there is no marketing happening over there. It's simply a donation given by one person for the genuine benefit of the charitable institution. Okay, so this is very easy. You can just go through it and you'll get to the gist of it. Next, artwork sent by artists to galleries for exhibition. For exhibition is not a supply as no consideration flows from the gallery to the artists. So basically, see, all the artists, they go from place to place, display their work of art. Someone likes it, purchases it, maximum of it goes to another art exhibition. So question arose that when they are selling it from, moving it from point to point, taking it for exhibition, whether it is supply. So clearly told no supply until unless there is clear sale happening. Mere hosting it for exhibition, that is not supply. Why am I scrolling through this? I'm scrolling through this because I want to be sure that no important aspect we have missed out. Okay. Distinct persons we have discussed. Stock transfer deemed supply we have discussed. Gifts by employer to employee. This we have discussed that up to 50,000 can be given. Now, perquisites. That what happens in case of perquisites? So in this case, a press release was issued on 10th of July 2017 that if services such as membership of a club, health and fitness center, etc. are provided free of charge to all the employees by the employer, the same will not be subjected to GST. But however, the same would hold true for free housing to the employees when the same is provided in terms of contract between the employer and employee and is part and parcel of the cost to company. So basically what they're saying is that if it is a part of contract, employment contract, anything which is given as part of employment contract, it is outside the purview of GST because that is happening in the course of employment, that is in the nature of salary. It says services by an employee to the employer in the course of or in relation to his employment is outside the scope of GST. It follows therefrom that payment made by the employer to the employee in terms of contractual agreement entered into between the employer and the employee will not be subjected to GST. Principal and agent also we have covered that where the agent is undertaking invoicing in the name of the principal, he has to obtain separate registration and supply transactions between them and between the supply are. We have reached del credere agent. Now, what is a del credere agent? Now, first of all, how is a del credere agent different from other agents? So it says in a commercial trade parlance, a del credere agent is a selling agent who is engaged by a principal to assist in supply of goods or services by contacting potential buyers on behalf of the principal. The factor that differentiates a del credere agent from other agents is that it guarantees the payment to the supplier. So basically, while agent, all of us understand what is an agent, a del credere agent is an agent that guarantees payment to the supplier. That okay, not only will I sell your goods, but the person to whom you will sell goods on my request, on my direction, I will make sure that you receive your payment from that person. If you don't receive the payment from that person, I will make the payment to you. Okay. And for this, generally, this del trader agent charges an additional amount from the principal because he is also giving assurance that your money will not go anywhere. Now, there were certain attached questions to a del trader agent. Here, first question was whether a del trader agent falls under the ambit of agent under para 3 of Schedule 1 of the CGST Act. And here it was clarified that so it depends on the following scenarios. In case where the invoice for supply of goods is issued by the supplier to the customer, either himself or through DCA, the DCA does not fall under the ambit of agent. In case where the invoice for supply of goods is issued by the DCA in his own name, the DCA would fall under the ambit of agent. So basically, where the supply of goods is directly happening from the supplier to the agent, in such case, DCA will not be covered in the agent category. However, where the invoice is being issued, so agent does not know about the principal, agent only knows del trader agent. In such case, DCA will be covered under Schedule 1, and any supplies between principal and agent will be liable to tax even if without consideration. Now, next question was whether the temporary short-term transaction-based loan extended by del trader agent to the recipient for which interest is charged by the del trader agent is to be included in the value of goods being supplied by the supplier, where del trader agent is not an agent under para 3 of Schedule 1 of the CGST Act. So here, first of all, what they've done is they've broken down the transaction. It says what all activities are taking place: supply of goods from supplier to recipient, supply of agency services from del trader agent to the supplier, and supply of extension of loan services by the del trader agent to the recipient. So the government clarified, in cases where del trader agent is not an agent under para 3, in what cases it is not an agent? Where the goods are directly sold by the principal to the buyer. The temporary short-term transaction-based loan is a supply of service by the del trader agent to the recipient, that is the principal, on principal to principal basis, and is an independent supply. And therefore, interest being charged by DCA would not form part of value of goods supplied to the buyer by the supplier. So basically, what we need to understand is, first thing, whether del trader agent would be covered under Schedule 1. If del trader agent is directly selling goods to the buyer does not know about the principal, there del trader agent will be covered under Schedule 1. Secondly, loan that it is giving, interest that it is charging the del trader agent, if del trader agent is covered under Schedule 1, extension of loan will be, if it is not covered under Schedule 1, extension of loan will become a separate supply. Interest charged on it will become separately taxable, if at all, and this will not be included in the valuation of goods. And lastly, where del trader agent is an agent under para 3 of Schedule 1 of the CGST Act and makes payment to the principal on behalf of the buyer and charges interest to the buyer for delayed payment along with value of goods being supplied, whether the interest will form a part of the value of supply of goods or not. So, in fact, had we studied valuation, you would have already known the answer, but let us break up the transaction. What are the activities that are taking place? Principal is supplying goods to the agent. Agent is then supplying goods to the recipient. Agency services are being supplied to the supplier or recipient or both. And in this case, DC is extending credit to the recipient. Now, this is already clarified that where DC is an agent, del credere agent is an agent under para 3 of schedule 1, the temporary short-term transaction-based credit being provided by DCA to the buyer no longer retains its character of an independent supply and is subsumed in the supply of goods by the DCA to the recipient. It is emphasized that the activity of extension of credit by the del credere agent to the recipient would not be considered as a separate supply, as it is in the context of supply of goods made by the DCA to the recipient. It is further clarified that the value of interest charged for such credit would be required to be included in the value of supply of goods by DCA as per section 15, subsection 2, clause D of CGST Act. Enough confusion. Let me simplify it. First of all, what is del credere agent? Just like a normal agent. Only difference is he guarantees payment to the principal. Boss, you're supplying goods to this person, I guarantee you the payment. Secondly, where DCA is covered under Schedule 1. Where it is covered under Schedule 1? Where DCA itself is supplying goods to the buyer. And to the buyer, it is giving some credit that, okay, on your behalf, I will make payment to the principal, but I will charge the value of supply and I will also charge interest from you. In such cases, DCA will charge GST on the value of goods plus interest charged from the buyer. Okay. Suppose DCA is covered under Schedule 1. 10 lakh rupees worth of goods were sold. Against that 10 lakh, it makes the payment to the principal for 10 lakh rupees. On behalf of the buyer, it makes the payment to the principal. But from the buyer, it says 10 lakh rupees for value of goods plus 1 lakh rupees interest you need to pay me. So total I will charge 11 lakh rupees. In such cases, the DCA or the del credere agent has to pay tax on 11 lakh rupees. Secondly, in another case, where DCA is not an agent under para 3 of Schedule 1, and in such case, pen plus another one free. Now, as soon as you hear the term free under GST, your head starts running. Oh, Schedule 1, oh, Section 17, Subsection 5, under GST, ITC. What is going to happen? My God, free. It's a headache. First of all, buy one, get one free is a marketing gimmick. Okay. Actually, it is never buy one, get one free. Actually, it is somewhere reduced profit margin and two things being sold at the price of one. And the government has accepted that. That buy one, get one free is boss nothing, but two things being supplied at the price of one. Suppose these two pens are being supplied for 1,500 rupees. You charge tax on 1,500 rupees and we are fine with it. We are not bothered to go into what is free and what is not free. Only thing Where we will get bothered is that where any supply is getting covered under Schedule 1. For example, samples which are supplied free of cost without any consideration do not qualify as supply except where they are covered under Schedule 1. Where they are covered under Schedule 1, where you avail input tax credit on it. That is, any business assets permanently transferred or disposed of on which ITC has been availed. So suppose the company is giving this pen as a sample, company has availed ITC, now it is giving Shashanki, here it is this pen as a sample for you. Please use it and tell us what is, how good is it. Now, if they have availed ITC, it is covered under Schedule 1, they need to pay tax. However, if they purchase it, do not avail any ITC, then it is not going to be covered under Schedule 1 and no liability to pay tax. Similarly, buy one free and buy one and get one free. It may appear like one item is being supplied free of cost without any consideration. But in fact, it is not an individual supply of price is being charged. And it at best can be treated as supplying of two goods at the price of one. Then these are Schedule 2 related transactions we've already discussed. Here, the good thing is certain specific examples have also been given. Then there is Schedule 3. Here also Schedule 3 we have discussed. Composite supply, mixed supply we have discussed. Of course, the benefit would be when you go back and then there is, let us recapitulate. So, my dear friends, the absolute benefit, if you want to derive from today's discussion, is that you have to go back and you have to read through the entire study material. Only then you will get the benefit out of it. Okay. Now we'll quickly move on to the multiple choice questions that I have formulated for you for both chapter 1. First we will do for chapter 1, then we'll do for chapter 2. Okay. Now I want you, I'll just read out questions and then I'll gauge your response. We'll go through questions one by one. Unless until I have 10 answers, correct, incorrect, whatever, I will not move ahead to the next question. So quickly, first question, GST goods and services tax is and this is where I get to zoom. Visible? So this is where I get to play KBC with you, except you don't become a crorepati unless you become a chartered accountant, okay? Once you become a chartered accountant, then of course you will become a crorepati. So GST is option A, production-based tax, B, destination-based tax, C, service-based tax, or D, manufacturing-based tax. Come on, please answer. And I need at least 10 different answers. Some people want to question 2. Okay, so one, most of you have answered correctly. Okay, answer is B. It's destination-based tax. Then second is HSN. HSN stands for Harmonized System of Numbers, Harmonized Services Numbering, Harmonized Systems of Nomenclature, or Harmonious System of Numbering. Which one? Come on. For 10 different answers I need at least. Okay, so for second, one person has given a wrong answer. The rest, most of you have given the right answer. Sarthak, YA, harmonious system of numbers. It is not harmonious system of numbers. The correct option is option C, harmonized system of nomenclature. Next, IGST or Integrated Goods and Services Tax is applicable on interstate supplies, dealer to retailer supplies, intrastate supplies, or manufacturer to dealer supplies. Come on, 10 different answers at least. Okay, I've received answers. 3, maximum of you have answered correct. Sahil, why are you saying intrastate supplies? My dear friend, on intrastate supplies, CGST and SGST is applicable. The correct answer is interstate supplies. IGST is applicable in case of interstate supplies. Answer to question number 4, please. Definition of GST is provided by Article 366(12)(a), B, Article 366(26)(a), C, Article 365(26)(a), or D, Article 365(12)(a. Correct answer, please. More people need to answer. Kamal Roshia is saying 4D. Why 4D? Article 365(12)(a. Did we study anything such as Article 365(12)(a? The correct answer is A, Article 366(12)(a). Question number 5. Tobacco is subject to GST or B, GST plus state excise duty, or C, VAT, or D, GST plus central excise duty. Which one? Come on, 10 different answers at least. When you're answering, answer full. 5D. Don't just say B, C, A. Just write complete 5 this, 5 this. Okay. Vijay Shankar is saying GST plus state excise duty. Why, Vijayji? Why so? Is tobacco a state? Is governed by state? No. Tobacco is governed by central excise. Correct answer is 5D. Very good, Mansha, Ramakrishna, Shami. Next. Which of the following are outside the ambit of GST? A, alcohol for human consumption. B, petroleum products. C, tobacco. Or D, A and B both. 10 different answers at least. Only 3 people had answered last question. I'm not going to move ahead unless I have 10 different answers. Only 3 people have answered. More people need to answer. 6th question, only Mansha, Sanjay and Shamim are answering quickly. Rest all are taking a lot of time. Alright, you're going to some are going to 7 directly. 6 to complete kar lo pehle. Some are saying 6D, some are saying 6B, some are saying 6A. Koi ek aad 6 ka C bhi bol do. So all the 4 options will get completed. It will look good in the answer box, na? So 7, yeah, right. 7. Just a moment. I think I made some error. 7. I have received in answer 7D, D, 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 7 both A. Okay, 7D, 7 answer D, 7D. I'm sorry, Neeraj Singh, 7B. Okay. So the correct answer is 7D. Both alcoholic liquor for human consumption and petroleum products are outside the ambit of GST. Next, GST Council is provided for which article? Article 279, 279A, 297 or 297A. Which one? 10 different answers at least. Not receiving enough answers, please answer. So I'm opening up because I'm shuffling through that now. So that would be removing the page. I'm opening up your queries on another system so that I can effectively view your answers and we won't have to move the page again and again. Those of you who've answered 8 can move on to query number 9. Okay, so 8 I have answered. 8's answer, one is B, one is giving B, some are giving B, 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 B. Okay, one person has given wrong answer, Aditi. It's not 297A, it's B, 279A. Two places you would have seen. The only thing that has been done in options is reshuffling the numbers of articles. Right? 279, 297 sounds synonymous. So you have to keep a track. You have to be so precise that you can't err to generally say, okay, I recall something like this. No. Because you have to be very careful, right? 9th, which one of these is constitutionally outside the purview of GST? A, alcohol for human consumption. B, petroleum products. C, entertainment tax levied by local bodies. Or D, tobacco, Indian hemp, opium, other narcotic drug. 9, I see people have answered. Mansha is saying 9A. Shivani is saying 9A and B. Shivani, multiple options can't be selected. Okay. Then Sanjay is saying 9D. Aditi is saying 9A. Uma Prajapati is saying 9A. Neeraj is saying 9B. Manish is still on question 8. Vijay Shankar is saying A, alcohol for human consumption. So the correct answer is 9A, that is alcohol for human consumption. Now, why? While all of these items are somewhere, so alcohol is also out, petroleum is out from GST, entertainment tax is a tax which is not subsumed in GST, tobacco, Indian hemp, opium, other narcotic drug are dually taxed. They're liable to GST plus also the erstwhile legacy taxes. But what is the question? Question is, which one of these is constitutionally outside the purview of GST? That is not included by the Constitution itself. So we had read the definition of GST, and GST definition in Constitution excludes alcoholic liquor for human consumption. So the correct answer is 9A, and the people who have answered correctly, very good. Manish, Rekha, Meenal, Rao, P. Tushar, Mohan, Sakshi Pawar, Shamim Ansari, Uma Prajapati, Aditi Sarda. Wonderful. All of those were answered correctly. And the last question, Indian GST is based on what? Unified GST model, dual GST model, single GST model or concurrent GST model. Quickly, please. 10A, B, C, or D. Very, very simple. In fact, you should push me, sir. Please bring difficult queries for us next time. These are very, very simple for us. Please answer. Indian GST is based on, okay, 10B, B, 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 B. Okay, Prashant is saying 1. Prashant is saying A, MS Vasant is saying A, Shamim is saying A, rest all are saying B. Friends, the correct answer is B, dual GST model. Why are you saying A? When did we discuss it as a unified GST model? Don't we have CGST and SGST separately? So it's a dual GST model, my dear friends. Okay. Now, quickly, we'll move on to MCQs for chapter 2. Now, come on. A person who has obtained more than one registration in one state or in more than one state in respect of each registration shall be treated as A, distinct person, B, registered person, C, registered entity, or D, distinct entity. Come on, A, B, or C, or D. Answer full. 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. Which one? Come on, students. Okay. Yeah, Charu, you will get these MCQs. They'll be uploaded on portal. These are made for you only. Okay, I have 3 answers. Good. Aditi, Kamal, Shivani. These 3 have answered. They've answered correctly. Okay, wonderful. Uma is correct. Karthik is correct. Manish is correct. Mancha is correct. Tushar Kumar is correct. Okay. Prashant is saying 1D. Prashant, it's not distinct entity. It is distinct person. The correct answer is 1A. Next, question number 2. Definition of services excludes A, money, B, money and securities, C, conversion of money, D, activities relating to use of money. Though we have specifically not discussed this, but still, I believe those of you who would have gone back and studied would have an outright answer to this. Come on. Which one is the correct option? Which one is the correct option out of this? A, B, C, or D? Okay. Abhishek is correct. Ramakrishna is correct. Kamal Roshi is correct. Aditi Sada is correct. Charu, your answers are reaching. Karthik is correct. Kuluru, Manish, Kruti is correct. Please excuse me if I spell your names wrong or pronounce them wrong. I'm reading them very fast. Oma is correct. Vijay Shankar is correct. Mancha is correct. Manish is correct. Shamim and Rekha are wrong. And Bhumika is correct. It is not only money, it is money and securities. So the correct answer is 2B. Now, question number 3, please. Taxable event under GST is A, B, C, and D. And इसका अगर किसी ने गलत आंसर दिया ना तो मैं लैपटॉप में से निकालूंगा, ध्यान रखना. Taxable event under GST is what? 3A, 3B, 3C, or 3D? If anyone answers this wrong, he will be subject of my wrath. Aditi has answered, Shivangini is answered, Kuluru is answered, Sahil Sudeep is answered. Rekha, why? Please go back and check once these are uploaded. Sarthak has intentionally given a wrong answer. He wants me to come out of the laptop. Prashant has answered and Rao P has answered. Correct answer is 3A. If someone has genuinely given a wrong answer, then God help you. Lastly, Dell creditor agent guarantees the payment to A, purchaser, B, supplier, C, distinct person, D, manufacturer. Which one? Fourth, A, B, C, or D? Good, Sanjay. Good, MS Vasant. Good, Rahul. Good, Shivangini. Good, Manish. Good, Shivani. The correct answer is 4B, supplier. Those of you who are not answering or not willing to answer, please introspect why so. Because I see some of people are regularly answering, but I don't know where the rest of it. Taxability of composite supply is determined basis A, deemed supply, B, principal supply, C, supply, and D, purchase. Which one? Taxability of composite supply is determined basis A, deemed supply, B, principal supply, C, supply, D, purchase. Which one? Come on, answer. Question number 5. Good, Kamal. Good, Aditi. Good, Priyanka. Good, Uma. Good, Shivangini. Good, Karthik. Good, Shivani. Good. The correct answer is 5B, principal supply. Next, question number 6. Gift by an employer to an employee shall not be treated as supply for the service of both up to the per financial year limit of what? INR 5,000, INR 5 lakh, INR 50,000, or INR 500? A, B, C, or D? This also, nobody should be wrong. Good, Uma. Good, Kamal. Good, Sanjay. Good, Aditi. Good, Abhishek. Good, Neeraj. Good, Shivani. Good, Rahul. Good, Shami. Very good. The answer is, correct answer is C, INR 50,000. Now, which of the following transactions are covered under supply? A, sale, B, lease, C, disposal, D, all of the above. Which one is the correct answer? Seven A, 7B, 7C, or 7D? Good, Aditi. Good, Abhishek. Good, Karthik. Shivani, Shivangini. Good, both. The correct answer is B, all of the above. Question number 8. Which of the following will be treated as supply even if without consideration? That is, supply between distinct person, supply between any two persons, supply between related persons, or D, A and C both? Good, Kamal. Good, Aditi. Good, Nancy. Good, Shivani. Sanjay, your answer is incorrect. Vasant, your answer is incorrect, or rather partially correct. Okay, Neeraj partially correct, Mansha partially correct, Priyanka good, Bhumika partially correct, Shubha good. Okay, Manish partially correct, Priyanka wrong, Prashant Kumar partially correct, Abhishek partially correct, Christina, Anil partially correct. So let me see who have correct answered correctly. Only handful of people. Kamal Roshia, Aditi, Sarda, Gilberta, Nancy, Valentine, Mansha, and Kuluru. Shubha Karini, Priyanka G. Good. Good way to get respect. Name your name and put G. So, correct answer is 8D. The question was, which of the following will be treated as supply even without consideration? So it said A, supply between distinct persons, B, supply between any two persons, C, supply between related persons, and D, A and C. The correct answer is A and C. Both of these will be treated as supply even if without consideration. Now, which one of the following is supply of goods? A, transfer of right in goods without title. B, lease of land. C, transfer of right to use. Or D, transfer of title in goods with property in goods being passed at a future date after receipt of consideration. A, B, C, or D. Very good, Kamal. Very good, Abhishek. Sanjay, your answer is incorrect. Very good, good, Shivani. Rao P. Tushar Kumar, your answer is incorrect. Prashant, your answer is incorrect. Aditi, your answer is correct. Priyanka, your answer is incorrect. Shamim, your answer is correct. Christina, your answer is incorrect. Vijay Shankar, your answer is correct. So the correct answer is 9D, transfer of title in goods with property in goods being passed at a future date. Rest, all three transactions are specifically provided in Schedule 2 to be treated as supply of services. Okay. Last question. Which one of the following is liable to tax as supply under GST? A, sale of completed building. B, actionable claims. C, services by court or tribunal. D, none of the above. Shivani, your answer is incorrect. Ramakrishna, your answer is incorrect. Very good, Rao. Your answer is correct. Priyanka, your answer is incorrect. Neeraj, your answer is incorrect. Kuluru, your answer is incorrect. Please read the question carefully. The question says, which one of the following is liable to tax as supply under GST? So we have to determine which one of these is liable to tax. So all these three items are A, B, and C are covered under Schedule 3. And the correct answer is clause D, that is none of the above. Okay. So that is the correct answer for this. And with this, friends, we conclude our session for today. Okay. And I would request all of you that we've concluded holistically our discussion around Chapter 1, Chapter 2, And we've discussed MCQs also. We've gone through certain important aspects also. We've scrolled through the entire study material also. And if I would request all of you to go through the queries, and if there are any pending queries that you may still have, please feel free to come back in the next class. Therein we can discuss, and in the next class, then we'll move on to our next chapter, that is chapter 3. Okay, so till then, please study well, take good care. Wishing all of you the best of health, and see you in the next class. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.